Hi, everybody. Welcome to From Adversity to Awakening, transforming hardships into greater spiritual connection and joy. And I am so joyful because I have the infamous Janet Attwood, looking like Miss Summer herself. Welcome, Janet. So glad that you're here.
Hi, Pegs. It's so good to be with you.
Thank
So
you.
sweet.
So, Janet has a long list of accomplishments and accolades, and I'm going to share only a few of them with you right now. She's a best-selling author, a New York Times best-selling author, a renowned transformational leader, and passionate advocate for living a purpose-driven life. Her groundbreaking work, The Passion Test, has empowered over 1 million people worldwide to discover their true calling. See, I think this is this is off the bio now, but how awesome that she's helping people to actually reach the apex of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So people actually have a fulfilling life. It's so amazing. As co-founder of the Passion Test certification program with over 5,000 certified facilitators across 65 countries, she has created a global movement dedicating to help people align with their passions and live fulfilling lives. So amazing. Beyond her work with the Passion Test, Janet has demonstrated a deep commitment to social cause. She has received the President's Volunteer Service Award, the highest U.S. presidential honor for service, recognizing her dedication to empowering the homeless and youth in detention centers. Her work promoting peace has earned her the World Peace Flame Award from Life Foundation International. Janet has practiced meditation, transcendental meditation, for how many years now, Janet?
For a long time, over 55.
And of course, she's just going to be 47 at her next birthday coming up this month. This dedication to inner peace and well being hints at her youthful spirit and appearance. And that was my ad, and commitment to personal growth. A resident of Fairfield, Iowa, which is a vibrant community of meditators, Janet travels the world sharing her wisdom and inspiring others to live with passion and purpose. So, Janet is up to some big stuff, and I'm so glad. And she's had some serious adversity in her life, and I have invited her here to share her story and inspire you all to overcoming your own challenges and transforming it into spiritual connection and joy. So welcome, Janet, again. Welcome again.
Thank you, Peg.
Yeah, so let's get on to your adversity. So tell me a little bit about the challenges that the greatest challenges that you faced in your life. When did that all start?
I called Chris Atwood today, and after I was meditating, and I said, "Hey, Chris, I'm going to do an interview with Peggy. What was my greatest adversity?" And he said, "Well, I think it was your teenage years." And I said, "I think it was like my whole life almost, because
Right?
it's been one of those lives where my lesson is to learn this in spite of this, right?" And
Up and down, yeah.
yeah, and I think my first crack, I always call it my first crack, came when I was young. I was as close as you could be with your mom, that
Mhm.
anybody could be. I mean, we just had 11 24/7, and then she
Oh.
became a raging alcoholic. And at 7, you don't know better, but my thought was, oh my God, I've done that. And I couldn't fix her. She became so bad that the whole family broke up. I mean, really, my dad had to get a divorce. She went into one alcoholic's home after another, after another, after another. And really, I remember at 16 years old, my mom called me up, "Janet, Janet, help, help." And I'd drive to some $4 a night hotel, and there she was laying on the floor with somebody, and cheap wine everywhere, and the ceiling falling in. I mean, I'm really serious. At 16. That's intense. That's an intense. And I was always trying to save her. I was always trying to think, how can I get her out of this place where she's in? I mean, I remember at one time she's living in North Hollywood in an apartment, and she was on Meals on Wheels. That's where, they'd drive up, they'd give you your meals, and she never went outside of her apartment. So, and I was always so worried about her. So I walk around the apartment knocking on people's doors, asking them if they wanted to be friends with my mom
Mm,
because I couldn't handle it. I didn't, she was probably fine.
yeah.
I couldn't handle it. It was my story, but that whole thing with my mom really threw me right into drugs, sexual abuse, um, living with the Oakland Hells Angels, one thing after the other,
Wow.
after the
Wow.
other. Yeah, I always, when I go, I go. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to like passion, do it. I
Well,
always like to.
we did notice that in your bio that you tend to like go all the way for the top notch.
Yeah, I've always done that though. I mean, it's always been if I'm going to do something, I'm going to like do it. So if I'm going to take drugs, I'm going to take them. And if I'm going to, you know, do whatever, I'm going to go full on. And so there has been a lot of adversity. And I think the biggest adversity that came since that time was just feeling like I didn't matter and feeling that nothing about me was good. And yeah, that I didn't have anything worthy of giving anyone. And I really felt that way. I was one big walking limiting belief. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable that you cared so much for your mother and you were completely helpless to help her. And so you felt powerless. And
Yeah,
no matter
perfectly
how
put.
many things you achieved, how much you achieved as a great drug taker or a great, partier or girlfriend of those wild guys, it didn't fill, it didn't touch the part of you that couldn't help her. So
Yeah.
that's a very difficult line to walk. I mean, very, very difficult. Yeah, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah.
Well, sidebar, the good news, like
Yes,
when about 7 years before she passed, she became a Seventh-day Adventist.
your mom.
Yeah, she stopped drinking.
Wow.
She stopped everything. She even became a vegetarian before me.
Oh, wow.
And when she passed away, she was holding her best friend's hand, saying the Lord's Prayer. So, she came home.
She came around to her spiritual
Yeah, she
connection
came home.
and it helped her.
Yeah, help
Yeah.
me.
And it
Help
helped.
me too.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so you're in the midst of LSD and cocaine, and I know some details about your story. And it wasn't just a few joints here and there, it was like full on Haight Ashbury, the whole scene. So, what happened that sort of like, how did you escape that downward spiral?
Yeah, I was living in fast forward from Haight-Ashbury. I went and was living in San Jose because I needed money to exist. So I lied to my dad and I said I was going to college and I was auditing courses from San Jose State,
Uh-huh.
like African American music, literature, witchcraft, and pottery. Those were the things that,
And
that I signed up
witchcraft.
for.
We're in the cults. Janet got her started very early, right? Yeah. So
And I
you're getting the money to live, but and you are going to college. You're just not paying for the courses.
That's exactly right. I was just using that money for drugs. And I was upstairs one day from my apartment and my boyfriend, Walt. Walt was a Christian who did no drugs, did nothing. And he was talking to me and he said, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you know what I think? And just blindsided me out of nowhere. He just said, you don't think? You don't even have a brain. And it was like someone took the biggest sledgehammer on the planet and just wham. And I just like turned around, ran down the stairs, called my brother Johnny. John, oh, he's right. He's right. I don't have a brain. All I am is a drug addict. I don't do it. And my brother was just so soft. He just let me just outpour. And then after a while, he said, Jenny, don't worry. I've learned something. I've learned something. I really think it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Don't worry. And then we hung up. He said, I love you, honey, and I'll call you soon. Next thing I know, 3 days later, Oops, I'm knocking on my computer. Someone's knocking at my door, and I open my door, and there's my brother John, and he had put all of his belongings in the back of his Volvo, drove 9 hours to San Jose from Dana Point in Southern California, Southern California, California, and he said, "Come on, honey, let's go." And we moved to Santa Barbara. Somehow we wanted to move to Santa somewhere, and I think we played a game to find out Santa Barbara, Santa Ana, Santa this, Santa that, and it ended up to be Isla Vista, California, which was where UCSB was, right? University of California, Santa Barbara. And he told me on the way down about transcendental meditation. And he said, I know this is what you need. And so I picked up, it cost $35 to learn transcendental meditation at the time. And I would pick up beer cans out of empty, developments and get paid for it to earn my 35. That was all I was capable of doing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I really no, nobody talked about them. That was like a long time ago. Nobody talked about withdrawal. I was having major drug withdrawal from cocaine and barbiturates and LSD,
Wow.
and then I blew up. I mean, because I was always so used to putting something in my mouth. Well, I
Right.
started putting, food in my mouth, and I went like from a size 5 to a size 18 in 2 seconds. I
No
mean, it was,
way.
oh
Oh my
man,
God.
talk about dark, so I learned transcendental meditation, and thankfully, it worked. It did. It got me back
Yay,
to,
TM. Oh my God.
yeah, that was the beginning of the ride.
From your down to your upward cycle.
Yeah, yeah. That was really the most significant, from so down to so up. And it was just learning how to meditate. Just a simple practice twice a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did it impact you to start to integrate that experience of I mean, I don't know if you experience this inner peace, inner quiet, expansion, stress release, like that, all of that happens with meditation. How did the meditation impact you and help you to, deal with the drug addiction, the withdrawal, and starting a whole new life?
Yeah. I was withdrawing for so long that I'm sure that what it did was help me not have such hard withdrawal.
Uh-huh.
Really. I
Yeah.
mean, really.
Yeah. Your
And
body adapted more
I can
easily.
honestly say that. And it wasn't like I was having some heavy duty enlightened experiences. What
Uh-huh.
it really helped me to do was I needed to be in my body because I
Uh-huh.
was so out of my body, so completely out of my body. And
Right.
it brought me back to being functional, to tell you the truth, because I mean, I told you the only job I could get was picking up beer cans or working at Foster's Freeze. That was it. I couldn't think. There was no mind.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe your boyfriend was right.
Oh, yeah. No, are you kidding me? I need to find him and give him, take him out to dinner and thank him, send him flowers.
Hey, Walt, where are you out there somewhere? You're the best.
You are absolutely the one person that could tell me the truth. And what did he tell? He only told me what I was always telling me, right? Byron Katie, who has the beautiful self-inquiry process called the work, she talks about that people, the things that hurt you. When someone says something that hurts you, it's not their what they say that hurts. A thought is not personal. But what hurts is that you tell yourself that. Well, I'd already been telling myself, you're a loser, you're nobody, you're nothing, you're a drug addict, your life is over, forget it. I'm like, poor little Janet. I'm 17,
Yeah, yeah.
18 at this by
Yeah,
this
yeah,
time,
yeah.
telling myself these that my life is over, you know? So thank you, Walt. I love you.
Yay, Walt. Thank you to the
Yep.
truth tellers. And
Yep.
thank you to the part of you that knew you were intrinsically wise and you were here for a purpose. Who knows how you knew that, but you knew that you did know how to think. You
Well,
knew that it was true at the moment, but it wasn't really true. And then you did something about it. That's so awesome, you
when,
know?
when I was in high school, my
Yeah.
girlfriend Janet Reed, she would read books by law. She was a very deep little high school girl, and she would read these books by Cahill Gibran and Lobsang Rampa, and then she'd hand them over to me.
And Herman
So
Hess, I hope.
yeah, Herman Hesse. And so I'm reading all that stuff, at a really young age. So that was there. That
Right.
was there. Plus, remember, from the time I was birthed to 7, I had more love than any child could ever have. So my core was solid.
Right.
My core was so
You
solid.
knew you knew what wholeness was.
Yeah, exactly. So when I experienced it again, it was like, oh my God, I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking everywhere for that, for, that namaste experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Janet, thank you so much. I mean, a beautiful story. So, tell us a little bit about how that experience of transcending or transcendental meditation and beginning to get your life back together actually caused you to have a spiritual, like, how did it impact your spiritual life?
And that is such a funny question because honestly, I can tell you, I always tell everybody, I think I must have burned out all of my spiritual experiences from all the LSD I had taken.
Uh-huh.
Again, it was a grounding for me. It was grounding, but it wasn't like, I think meditation is the most important thing anyone can do. I think that's the foundation.
Mhm.
But what I also feel is that, you meditate but in meditation it doesn't pinpoint specific limiting beliefs, right?
Or hurts or
So
wounds or traumas or
exactly,
issues.
right? So
Right.
my journey still continued to be a little rocky.
Right.
I never stopped meditating. I've been meditating all this time, but I realized that my mind still had these limiting beliefs of, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Right.
And especially in relationships, that's where I really was dysfunctional.
Right.
And I know I've told you I've been married 4 times. And the first time it was his fault. The second time it was his fault. The third time it was, uh-oh. And the fourth time was, I better go see someone, and talk to them about what is going on. Why is this happening to me? And what it was that there was still this disconnect inside of me that said, in terms of personal relationships, I can't seem to get it really together. And so I met the great Byron Katie. And at the time, I was really lucky because at the time I was working for the third largest book buyer in the United States called Books Are Fun.
Yeah.
And I was running the marketing division. I had been their top salesperson for 5 years. The next best person was 50% behind me. And I met Byron Katie at a seminar, and I ended up having lunch.
Wait a minute. Just tell the audience how much the company was sold after your
Oh, 306.
acumen.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
much? You didn't finish. Say it again.
we were only in business 7 years and we sold a Reader's Digest for $360 million. So
That's $1 million for every day of the year.
it was so
Awesome.
cool. So
Oh my God.
I am at this seminar of Byron Katie's, and afterwards I went to lunch with my friend Radhika, and we walk in the restaurant and there's Byron Katie. And there's an empty seat right next to Byron Katie. Radhika grabs my purse, slams, really Katie, I mean really Pegs, slams it down in front of Byron Katie and says, "That's for Janny." Because Radhika knew I needed some help. So Katie looks at me and she just goes like, she goes, this is what she does like this.
Yes, she's
She
always
says,
like,
"So, honey,
yes.
what do you do?" And I was so glad she didn't say, "So, honey, tell me about your relationships." Thank God she didn't. She said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm the marketing director for the third largest book buyer in the United States, and we just sold a Reader's Digest for $360 million. And she said, are you good? And I said, I'm the best. And Katie said, without a second thinking about it, she goes, I'd like you to come live with me. I have a house in Manhattan Beach. My two assistants live there, and I'd like you to be my marketing director. And, and I'm fast, Peggy, but that was I was like, okay, what's wrong with her? Really, what's wrong with her? And
I
anyway,
didn't know that. I did not know that.
yeah, so
Wow.
it did turn out after a number of conversations that I ended up and going and working with Byron Katie
Well,
and
then you also must have
undoing.
gotten not only a crash course in her technology, but just being around her is a purifying impact because she's such a high vibe.
Well, here's what you also don't know is that Chris Atwood, when
Your
Chris,
first husband.
yeah, my last husband, my best friend, my business partner, Chris Atwood.
Oh, I didn't know he was the last one. Okay.
Yeah, when he met Byron Katie, he was so blown away by her that when I became her marketing director, he said, "Katie, can I come live there too?" Because he knew he also had all these limiting beliefs.
Right.
And she said, "Well, honey, all the rooms are taken, but there is one place by the fireplace. It's called the Dip or something like that." And she said, "If you want to sleep there at night and take away your, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
bedding, you
yeah.
can live there." So Chris Atwood lived on Byron Katie's floor. And all of you don't know Byron Katie. She has, again, this process to undo your limiting beliefs that's like lightning by these 4 questions and what she calls a turnaround. And that is a phenomenal practice. And so Chris ended up living on her floor for a year. And so we both got crash course. And fast forward years later, I'm driving in Chicago, picking up Katie at the airport with Deborah Poneman, right,
Yep.
from
Mutual
Yes to
good friend.
Success, our buddy. And Katie gets in the car and she looks at me and she goes, "Janny, I'm so proud of you." And I said, "Why, Katie?" And she said, "Honey, I never thought you'd die." And what she meant
I
was
never thought what?
that you die. I had so many limiting beliefs. I mean, when I met
Oh,
Byron Katie, I just couldn't cop to it. I was so ashamed.
uh-huh.
I just carried so much shame from how I had lived my life that even, meditating, I think saved my life. Really.
Yes,
I think
yes.
without meditation, I don't know. I was really just on the downhill slope.
Exactly. Well, that's the only path of of victimhood, which was what you were holding unconsciously inside, and
Yeah.
then the outer expression of addiction.
So I like to say that, Marishi, he was like my dad, and Katie
It's like your
fulfilled
mom.
the mother part.
Yeah.
And with both of them, it was just an awakening. There was my awakening.
So
Uh,
how did both TM, so then did TM and then you went to work and live and do the work with Katie. How do you feel like those things impacted your spiritual connection, like your connection with yourself, connection with other people, connection with God, connection with nature? Like how did it impact you, your ability to connect?
it brought me home. I
Mm,
mean, I'm connected to everyone, and I am connected to everyone, and
beautiful.
I'm one of those really blessed people that, if you're in an elevator with me, and you're like that too, we're really very similar that way.
Yes.
I'm like a golden retriever now. I just like love everybody.
Right.
I do. And I think every moment is spiritual. I think every moment absolutely matters. And what TM brought for me was TM brought me home, and the work undid, some of these deep, deep, deep and pinpointed stresses
Right.
where
Yes.
transcendental meditation on a regular basis releases stress. But what the work does, this self-inquiry, is it can pinpoint and help you to undo certain
And it really
hardcore.
addresses your psychology and the way that your unconscious is running the show. So
Totally.
I love that.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
in terms of my spirituality, I see every moment as spiritual. I
Beautiful.
don't see anything that's not spiritual anymore. I
Yeah.
feel that every single moment matters, and you're either in love or not. And that's the practice now of just how open can I be and walking this planet in service to humanity. And I am just so grateful to be alive because I'll tell you, the guys that I lived with, I told you earlier today we were talking, I lived at one point in time in a commune in Haight-Ashbury, and I lived with all these different men and women, and one went to a state penitentiary, one became a heroin addict, one died, one became a cocaine addict, and for some reason it was like I kind of walked through the sleeping herd of elephants.
You
And
really did. I mean, you were extremely blessed, blessed to have that early life experience with your family and blessed to have had some, maybe, on one level, adversity that helped you wake up to the fact that you are whole, that you are connected to everything and everyone. And how
well,
amazing.
I wouldn't change a single moment,
I love that.
not
I,
a moment, because
yeah,
that moment, even that moment and that moment that just passed, brought me here. It allowed me to be here. It allowed me to have this conscious conversation with you,
yeah.
and to be what I call ATV, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable, and be okay with, hey, this is it. This is the package, and whatever I have to offer, it's my offering, and it's enough.
And
Yeah.
you have been doing that so beautifully. And I've been moved to tears a couple times while you've been talking. It's been very, very moving. And I have a little bit more questions for you. One of them is in that sense of in your journey of coming home to yourself more and more through releasing the stresses, the specific psychological limiting beliefs and all of that, and having this greater sense of wholeness and connectedness. Do you notice like that your life gets lighter, happier, more joyful, more fulfilling? Like what's that journey like?
It's like, it's, as I said earlier, it's like a love-in.
A love in?
It's like a love-in.
I
I just
love
feel
that.
like
It's like a love in. My life, I feel like that too. I never
I
used
just
that
feel
word.
like it's like a love-in,
Yeah.
and I have all the tools in front of me in case anything happens. I can like, oh, as I said, you're either in love or you're not.
Yeah.
And I was really blessed to gather on my journey so many different tools and practices to
Yes.
really be
Yes.
able to be here now, to
Yes.
just be here now. And I really think that's the essence of it all. To- You
I
know,
think
I mean, I wouldn't, I don't know. I don't compare myself to others. Oh, like my life's better than yours or your life's better than mine. But I wouldn't trade my life for any other life. And I think that is really something to say.
it's something to
Yeah.
celebrate. And
Yeah.
and it is a reflection of a very high level of inner joy and a very high level of perception to be able to see that your life is happening for you and not to you, and that you have overcome the victim place of powerlessness and helplessness, and that you are in divine grace at every moment. I mean, that's amazing, and then and then your life becomes a loving, right?
Well, also I'm blessed because I chose to be a transformational leader.
Well, that too. And
And
that
I
you
think I
found
think
your
it's the
dharma
best
early.
job. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the best job in the whole world. I wouldn't even call it a job because
Right.
you get to remind yourself. I mean, there is no one out there. Everyone is just a reflection of who we're being at any moment. So when I'm sharing about self-love, who am I really talking to? It's the way the universe has set it up. It's so cosmic. I'm really reminding me, reminding me, reminding me, reminding me. When I'm talking about being in alignment with your passion, who am I talking to? If anyone else gets anything, that's a bonus. That's really a bonus. But what is also a bonus is that I get to, on my journey, travel all over the world. I just came back from China, Japan, Thailand, Nepal, and see other
She's been doing that
people.
for years, years and years. She's
I'm
been
doing
doing
that
that,
again
not
next
just
month.
like a one-time deal. She is a globetrotter and has enlightened people all over the globe.
No, no, I don't enlighten people. I hand them the keys to the kingdom. Now, whether or not they take it,
Well,
that's their responsibility. So
okay,
they create their own enlightenment. I
that's
don't
true.
do it.
That's true.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm very
I'm,
clear on that,
I'm happy to get that.
And
But
I loved you'd like to have me be walking on water in a sense. I mean, you're so adorable. I still have life happens. Life happens, and I always tell my students the difference between a transformation leader and others, a transformational leader that is really truly transforming, is that they use their tools. They know what they need to do. This morning I was on at 6:30 to China having my China master trainer class. And what was I talking to him about? I was talking about one of the things I was talking to him about was now, you guys, when you go to bed before 11, you go to bed with the last angel train. And how important is rest? Rest is the basis of activity, right? So I'm just like super blessed because I've created this phenomenal opportunity to share with others all over the world and watch their life transform. And that, Peggy, I really feel, and I know this is true, is where the road to happy is. Not when you're on the stage, but when you're giving to others and you watch them be able to blossom. That's the road to
that
happy.
is that I love that, Janet. Would you please share with our audience that statement that you make about having your list of 5 top passions? Because
Oh, yeah.
that
Okay.
I heard you say that recently, and I mean that was something else.
Okay. Well, so in the passion test, this process that I teach people, it's actually a system. I love the acronym for system. Save yourself time, energy, and money. When you take the passion test, that one of the first exercises is that we have you make a list of 10 and you start with the sentence, when my life is ideal, I am. And we have you look at different areas of your life, education, relationships, career, spirituality, fun, et cetera, service, fun. I always say fun about 3 times because it's very important to me.
Yeah, your top 10
Environment.
passions.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So we have you write down 10 passions, thinking of these different areas, really thinking about when my life is ideal, I am, so that you're already doing it. That's the best way to do it. And then through this elimination process, we have you come up with your top 5. And the purpose of having you come up with your top 5 is so you won't be overloaded all the time. You won't,
Right.
you don't have to worry about, oh, got this, that. I mean, consider this: if you had your top 5 passions fulfilled, what would your life be like? So once you know what your top 5 passions are, we have you write them down on this little card. Well, my life is ideal, I am. And then you've got your 5 top passions. And down at the bottom, this or something better. And the secret to living a passionate life is simply, whenever you're faced with a choice, a decision, or an opportunity, choose in favor of your passions. So when you
Choose in
know your
favor
top
of your
5,
passions.
yeah,
Choose.
whenever you're faced with a decision, a choice, or an opportunity, choose in favor of your passion. So imagine what it would be like. You know what your top 5 passions are, you're consistently choosing in favor of them. The world is your oyster. I mean, it becomes this
Exactly.
incredibly beautiful experience. And the
Exactly.
only reason, if any of you are listening and going, well, that sounds kind of simple, or you think I could never do it. The only reason why you're not living your passions, or you're living a less of a life than you think you deserve or desire, is simply because you're choosing consistently in favor of things that have lesser meaning for you. That's all it is.
Also, Jan, and I guess can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
The thing that is so brilliant and magnificent about your work is that you wake people up to the question, what is my ideal life? What
Yeah.
is it that I really love? What's really important to me? What do I would rather be doing than doing other things? And a lot of people They didn't ask me that question in school. They didn't ask me what I was good at, what I love to do, what made my heart sing, what made time pass quickly. They didn't ask me those
I
questions,
know.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We didn't go
your
to
your
self-love school
passion
either.
test, your passion test did. And
Mm.
um, I think that a lot of people really go, it completely transformed their life to have the question, what are my top 10 passions? And then to be given the instructions to start to choose in favor of those passions. I mean, this is what makes a fulfilling life. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's all about, to really get that experience of fulfillment in life, we have to live our passion. We have to know our purpose. And thank you for bringing this to millions of people all over the world and having
Yeah.
5,000 people out
You're
there
welcome.
asking that question.
You're welcome. And just one little thing for those of you that go, well, I don't even know what I'm passionate about.
Yeah,
Then
thank you.
just go ahead and think about, what do you never want to have happen in your life again?
Mm.
And then what would be the best of the best? And you be you. No one can do you better than you. I always say the universe doesn't make mistakes. It's not a mistake that you love what you love.
Mhm.
It's not a mistake that you love what you love. So honor that. And it's not your job to know the how. The how is, how the hell are these passions going to come true? They're so against what my reality is. But that's not your job. That's God, nature, higher power, the universe, the unified field. Whatever name you put to that energy that's greater than yourself, your job and your only job is to know the what. What do I care about? What do I love? Just as Peggy just said, what gets me out of bed in the morning? And when you
My
start
heart.
to consistently choose in favor of your passions, what happens is the universe starts to organize the people, the places, the things to show up to support you in living your ideal life. And the reason for this is because it's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. I'm going to say that 3 times. What is it about? We're all part and parcel of a unified field. We all have a role to play, science says, in this unified field. We're like, we all have this little piece in the puzzle. And your job is to know what is the song that you're here to sing. What is the general manager of the universe? What does she want you to sing? What does he want you to sing? Whatever, whoever you think that person is or whatever they are. Huh? And so your job is to figure it out. And it's not, and why I say it's not about you is because your gift is your passions are breadcrumbs that lead you onto the path of your destiny. Your
Beautiful.
destiny
I
is
love
your
that.
gift to humanity. I want you to hear that. Your destiny is your gift to humanity, your gift back for having the wonderful opportunity, the wonderful privilege of being birthed as a human being and being able to gift others with what you came here to do.
Thank you. That's bringing me to tears because that's the deepest truth about why we're here and what we need to
That's
do.
it. I mean,
And
that's
thank you
it.
so much. So I want to just sort of wrap it up now because you've shared so much amazing story and information and process. Of course, Janet has a book called The Passion Test, and I think you have a free gift for the audience as
I
well. You want to talk
do.
about
I
that for a
do.
minute?
Yeah. I was in Israel some years back and I started writing these, what I call them little haikus, right? And it started with, I want for you what you want for you because, and then I started doing all of these because when I'm separate from you, I'm in pain. And I mean, but I don't know why, but they came out really profound. And I'm reading them to a promoter in Israel and his wife is listening and she goes, oh my God, Duran, we have to have Jani. She has to record those and it should be part of Minter's channel. He had this big channel with millions, really, with 2 million people. And he did these big old programs, right? And so I just started writing all of these little, I want for you is what I want for you, and recorded them. And it's all about unconditional love. And they're in Janet's meditative voice. I want for you what you want for you. And I think that's the only time in my whole life I've ever
That's
talked like
hilarious.
that. But they're very cool and they're very deep. And I've had people actually tell me that they use them as their morning, pre-meditation. and to get them to that, just settled state down so that when you meditate, you're really like ready. And I've had a number of people say it actually changed their way they viewed the world and viewed others. And so that is my gift to all of you for allowing me the privilege of living my passion to be able to share with you today. So thank you. I'm really honored, and thank you, Peggy.
And thank you, Jenny. That'll be if you go to Jenny's speaker page at ada.peggyspeaks.com. You'll see her gift there. You can click the link. And just as a closing question, is there any last piece of wisdom, guidance, joy, or funniness that you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah. Well, I'll leave you with this little song that one of my facilitators wrote one time. And I actually was on my way to go to my first lockdown detention center of all these youths. And I freaked out on the way because I realized that I'd never done it before and I really didn't know what to do. So I called Michael Beckwith up, Reverend
Uh-huh.
Michael Beckwith from The Secret.
Yeah,
And, it's
agape.
right?
Agape. Uh-huh.
Great transformational leader. And I said, Michael, blah, 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 blah. And he said, tell them that once there was a time, when they had this dream and it's time, and then they lost it. And now it's time to reclaim your power. So I told my student these words, and I said, I want you to write a song. And I gave him more words. And so here's the words, and I'll end with this. Everybody's got a song inside them. Everybody's got a gift that comes out of the silence, but something happened and you decided to hide it. But now it's time to reclaim your power. When you were young, you saw life from the eyes of love. Then life got rough, then you gave it up. But if you're like me and you've had enough, it's time to reclaim your power. All right, everybody. Thank you. Love to you. Thank you, Pam.
Jenny, thank you for being with us. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, and tune in next time for another adventure. And many blessings, Janet. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Love you.
Love you.